The Discovery DR. Sarah Chun wiped the sweat from her brow as she examined the strange metallic object half buried in the Chilean desert sand. The artifact gleamed with an otherworldly blue-silver hue that seemed to shift and pulse in the harsh sunlight. Her archaeological team had been excavating this remote site for 3 months, but nothing had prepared them for this discovery. "Professor, you need to see this," called Miguel, her graduate assistant, his voice tight with excitement and fear. "The readings are off the charts. This thing is emitting energy signatures we've never seen before." Sarah approached the partially excavated structure, roughly the size of a small car, but shaped like a crystalline polyhedron. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. As the team's lead xenoarchaeologist, she had spent years studying evidence of ancient civilizations. But this was different. This was unmistakably not human. "Carbon dating is impossible," reported Dr. James Martinez, the team's physicist. "The material doesn't match anything in our periodic table. It's like it exists outside normal matter composition." Sarah circled the artifact slowly, her scientific mind racing. The energy readings were consistent with theoretical models of zero-point energy manipulation, technology that humanity was still centuries away from developing. Yet here it was, buried in Earth's soil, waiting to be found. As she knelt beside the object, something extraordinary happened. The patterns on its surface began to glow brighter, responding to her proximity. Before anyone could react, Sarah reached out and touched the smooth surface. The moment her skin made contact, the world exploded into light and knowledge. Information flooded her consciousness like a tsunami of pure understanding. Mathematical equations that had puzzled humanity for generations suddenly became crystal clear. The secrets of faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, consciousness transfer, and technologies beyond current human imagination poured into her mind. But it wasn't just technical knowledge. Sarah saw the history of the artifact, created by an ancient race called the Architects before they transcended physical existence millions of years ago. They had seeded these repositories throughout the galaxy, waiting for species to evolve enough to unlock their secrets. The artifact had been testing her, measuring her cognitive capacity, her ethical framework, her species' readiness. Humanity had passed. When the light faded, Sarah found herself lying on the sand, her team gathered anxiously around her. But she was no longer the same person who had touched the artifact minutes before. Her mind now contained the accumulated wisdom of a galactic civilization, carefully compressed and integrated in a way her human brain could process. "Sarah, are you all right?" Miguel asked, helping her sit up. "You were unconscious for almost an hour." She looked at her team with new eyes, seeing not just their concerned faces, but understanding the quantum mechanics of their neural processes, the mathematical beauty of their DNA structures, the vast potential hidden within ordinary human consciousness. "I'm more than all right," she said softly. "I'm enlightened." Over the following weeks, Sarah began carefully implementing the knowledge she had gained. She started with small advances, publishing groundbreaking papers on quantum mechanics and theoretical physics that revolutionized entire fields overnight. Her work on clean energy production solved humanity's climate crisis, while her insights into genetic therapy eliminated dozens of previously incurable diseases. But Sarah was careful. The artifact had shown her the dangers of advancing too quickly. She shared her discoveries gradually, working with a select group of scientists and world leaders who could be trusted with such revolutionary knowledge. Each advancement was presented as a natural extension of existing human research, hiding the true source of the breakthroughs. What Sarah didn't know was that her activities had not gone unnoticed by the galaxy's established powers. Far beyond Earth's solar system, in a massive space station orbiting the galactic core, an emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council was taking place. Representatives from 47 different species filled the circular chamber, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of chirps, clicks, and telepathic vibrations. Admiral Crixtar of the Zephyrian fleet stood at the center podium, his insectoid features rigid with concern. His species had been monitoring Earth for over 2 centuries, cataloging humanity's slow but steady technological progress. The recent acceleration was unprecedented and deeply troubling. The human, designated as Sarah Chun, has demonstrated capabilities that should be impossible for her species, Krixtar announced his mandibles. Clicking nervously, our analysis indicates she has somehow acquired knowledge equivalent to a Class 7 civilization, despite Earth barely qualifying as Class 2. Counselor Vorth, a massive crystalline being whose thoughts resonated through harmonic frequencies, pulsed with alarm. This violates the natural order of progression. No species should advance multiple classification levels within a single generation. The concern was justified. Throughout galactic history, species that advanced too rapidly inevitably destroyed themselves or became aggressive expansionists who threatened established civilizations. The Confederation had learned this lesson the hard way, having witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of premature technological civilizations. What do we know about the source of this advancement? Asked Elderson DRA, one of the few energy-based life forms on the Council. Krixtar displayed a holographic representation of Sarah's recent activities. Our long-range sensors detected a massive energy surge from Earth's surface approximately 47 days ago. Since then, this human has been responsible for technological leaps that should have taken her species millennia to achieve. The implications were staggering. If Sarah Chun continued on this trajectory, Earth could become a spacefaring civilization within decades rather than centuries. Worse, if her knowledge spread throughout the human population, they could become a significant galactic power almost overnight. The accords are clear, declared Counselor Vorth, his crystalline form pulsing with decision. No primitive species may be allowed to bypass natural evolutionary development. The risk to galactic stability is too great. Admiral Krixtar nodded grimly. I recommend immediate intervention. Deploy a stealth reconnaissance team to assess the full extent of the contamination, followed by surgical elimination of the primary source. The vote was unanimous. Earth's accelerated development posed an existential threat to the carefully maintained balance of galactic civilization. Sarah Chun had to be stopped before she could elevate her entire species beyond their natural limitations. Within hours of the Council's decision, a cloaked ship departed from the Confederation's hidden base in the Oort Cloud. The vessel, crewed by 4 of the galaxy's most skilled assassins, moved silently through space using technology that bent light and gravity around its hull. Their mission was simple: eliminate Sarah Chun and destroy any evidence of advanced technology she might have created. The assassins belonged to different species, but shared a common expertise in eliminating targets that posed threats to galactic security. Zalthek was a shadow walker from the Void Realms, capable of existing partially outside normal space-time. Mira possessed telepathic abilities that could stop a heart with a thought. Vex was a shapeshifter who could perfectly mimic any biological form. And Quantum, despite the human-sounding name, was an artificial intelligence housed in a nearly indestructible synthetic body. As their ship approached Earth, the assassins reviewed their target's profile. Dr. Sarah Chun appeared to be an ordinary human academic, but her recent achievements suggested otherwise. The energy readings from her location indicated she possessed technology that shouldn't exist on Earth for another 1,000 years. Standard approach won't work, Zalthek observed, his form flickering between dimensions. If she truly has access to advanced technology, she may have defenses we can't detect. Quantum's artificial consciousness processed thousands of potential scenarios in milliseconds. Probability analysis suggests a 73% chance that the target is aware of our approach. Recommend maximum caution and prepared contingencies. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere under complete stealth, passing through radar and satellite networks without leaving a trace. Their target was located at a research facility in Chile, the same site where she had made her mysterious discovery. What they found when they arrived shattered their understanding of the mission. The archaeological site had been transformed into something resembling an advanced research installation. Buildings that appeared primitive from the outside contained technology that rivaled Confederation standards. Energy shields hummed invisibly around the perimeter, and quantum sensors tracked their every movement despite their stealth capabilities. But most shocking of all was the welcome message that appeared on their ship's communication array as they prepared to land. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Confederation," came Sarah's voice, calm and somehow sad. "I've been expecting you. Please land at the designated coordinates. We have much to discuss before you attempt to fulfill your mission." The four assassins exchanged glances of disbelief. Not only was their target aware of their approach, but she seemed to know exactly why they had come. This was supposed to be a simple elimination mission, but they were beginning to realize that nothing about Sarah Chun was simple. As their ship touched down on the landing pad that hadn't existed in their reconnaissance data from just hours before, the assassins prepared for a confrontation unlike any they had ever faced. They were about to discover that killing Dr. Sarah Chun would be far more complicated than the Confederation Council had anticipated. The woman who walked out to greet them was not the frightened primitive they had expected. She moved with quiet confidence, her eyes holding depths of knowledge that seemed almost infinite. And when she smiled, it was with the patience of someone who understood far more about their situation than they did. "Welcome to Earth," Sarah said simply. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation about humanity's future in the galaxy." The hunt begins. The four Confederation assassins stood in perfect formation as Sarah Chun approached their landing craft. Each warrior represented the pinnacle of their species' evolutionary development, armed with technology that could level city blocks and trained to eliminate threats to galactic stability. Yet something about the human woman's calm demeanor made them hesitate. "Dr. Chun," Quantum spoke first, its synthetic voice carrying harmonic frequencies designed to induce compliance in most organic species. "You are harboring technology that violates Confederation law. Surrender yourself for processing, and your species will be spared further intervention." Sarah stopped 20 feet away, close enough to speak comfortably, but far enough to avoid any sudden attacks. Her expression remained serene, almost amused. "Processing," she repeated thoughtfully. "Such a clinical term for execution. Tell me, Quantum, in your vast databases, have you ever encountered a situation where the target knew more about Confederation protocols than the agent sent to eliminate them?" The AI's optical sensors flickered with rapid calculations. "That scenario has a probability of 0.0003%. "Then today is your lucky day," Sarah replied. She gestured toward the research facility behind her. "Your reconnaissance was thorough but incomplete. You've classified me as a primitive who somehow acquired advanced technology. The truth is far more complex." Zalfek phased partially out of normal space-time, his form becoming translucent and threatening. "Enough talk. The Council's orders are clear." As he began to move, Sarah did something that froze all four assassins in place. She spoke a single word in their ancient language, a term that hadn't been used in over 1,000,000 years. "Architect." The effect was immediate and profound. Nira's telepathic probe, already reaching toward Sarah's mind, recoiled as if burned. Vex's shape-shifting abilities locked, trapping him in his current humanoid form. Zalfek snapped back into full reality, his dimensional abilities temporarily severed. Even Quantum experienced something unprecedented for an artificial intelligence. "Uncertainty." "Impossible," Nira whispered, her species' complex vocal cords producing harmonics of disbelief. The architects transcended physical form eons ago. Their legacy artifacts were destroyed to prevent exactly this scenario. Sarah's smile held depths of ancient sadness. "Not all of them. The architects were more thorough in their preparations than your Confederation realized. They understood that wisdom without a worthy inheritor is merely lost knowledge." She began walking toward the facility, gesturing for them to follow. "Come, let me show you what you're really dealing with before you decide whether to complete your mission." The assassins followed, their training warring with curiosity. The interior of the facility defied all expectations. What appeared to be a simple archaeological site from outside revealed itself as a sophisticated research complex that seamlessly blended human architecture with technology that predated most galactic civilizations. 47 days ago, I was exactly what your files indicate, Sarah explained as they walked through corridors lined with holographic displays showing incomprehensible equations. A human archaeologist with expertise in ancient civilizations. Then I found their gift. She led them to a central chamber where the artifact hovered in a containment field that pulsed with energies older than recorded galactic history. Its crystalline structure seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its surface covered with patterns that hurt to look at directly. The architects didn't just transcend physical existence, Sarah continued. They prepared for it. This repository contains not just their knowledge, but their accumulated wisdom about how to use that knowledge responsibly. It chose me not because I was exceptional, but because humanity as a species has reached the threshold of readiness. Quantum sensors analyzed the artifact, producing readings that contradicted known physics. The energy signatures match theoretical models for consciousness-based technology. This device doesn't just store information, it evaluates the worthiness of potential recipients. Precisely, Sarah nodded, and it found humanity ready for the next phase of our development. But the Confederation's rigid adherence to natural progression protocols threatens to stunt that growth out of fear. Vex, still trapped in his current form, managed to speak. Fear is justified. We've seen what happens when species advance too rapidly. The Zephyr Wars, the Crystal Plague, the Void Cascade, all caused by civilizations that gain power without wisdom. Sarah's expression grew serious. Yes, I've seen those histories too. The difference is that the architect's gift comes with built-in safeguards. The knowledge can only be accessed gradually and only by individuals who demonstrate both intellectual capacity and ethical restraint. She activated a holographic display showing a network of connections spanning the globe. I haven't shared the repository's full contents with anyone. Instead, I've been identifying and gradually enhancing specific individuals, scientists, leaders, philosophers, people who can help guide humanity through this transition safely. The display showed dozens of brilliant minds around Earth, each showing subtle signs of enhancement. A physicist in Geneva whose fusion reactor designs had jumped forward by decades. A medical researcher in Mumbai who had suddenly cracked the genetic basis of aging. A philosopher in Sao Paulo whose writings on consciousness had begun incorporating concepts from advanced galactic civilizations. Each person receives only what they can handle, and only knowledge that serves humanity's greater good, Sarah explained. No weapons technology, no tools of oppression. The architects learn from the failures of other species. Admiral Crickstar's voice crackled through Quantum's communication system. Report status. Your mission should have been completed by now. Quantum hesitated for the first time in its existence. Admiral, the situation is more complex than anticipated. The target possesses legitimate architect technology. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Crickstar's voice returned, tight with controlled panic. Confirm your last transmission. Confirmed, Admiral. We have visual verification of an active architect repository. Within hours, the small assassination team was reinforced by an entire Confederation battle fleet. 12 massive warships materialized in Earth's outer solar system, their combined firepower capable of cracking planets. Admiral Crickstar himself boarded a stealth transport to Earth's surface, bringing with him a team of the Confederation's most senior xenobiologists and historical scholars. Sarah greeted the Admiral with the same calm courtesy she had shown the assassins. By now, she had prepared a more extensive presentation, complete with historical records that proved the architects had indeed planned for this moment. The question before us, she said as they gathered in the facility's main conference room, is whether the Confederation will honor the architect's intended legacy or destroy it out of institutional fear. Admiral Crickstar's insectoid features twitched with agitation. The architects disappeared over 1 million years ago. Their technology was deemed too dangerous for any species to possess. And yet here we are, Sarah replied calmly. The repository chose humanity after evaluating our species for millennia. It found us ready for advancement, but the Confederation's protocols would prevent that growth indefinitely. Dr. Yithar A., the Confederation's leading expert on architect history, studied the artifact with instruments that hadn't been used in geological ages. The signatures are authentic, she admitted reluctantly. This is genuinely architect technology, and it appears to be functioning as designed. Which means, Sarah continued, that humanity's advancement isn't a violation of natural order, it's the fulfillment of an ancient plan. The architects foresaw this moment and prepared for it. Admiral Krixtar paced the room, his tactical mind wrestling with implications that threatened everything he had believed about galactic stability. Even if we accept your claims, the risk remains enormous. One mistake, one ethical failure, and your species could become a threat to the entire galaxy. Sarah nodded gravely. You're absolutely right. That's why I'm proposing a partnership rather than demanding recognition. She activated another display, this one showing detailed plans for gradual integration between humanity and galactic civilization. We don't want to disrupt the existing order. We want to earn our place within it. Let us prove our worthiness through actions, not just words. The proposal was elegant in its simplicity. Humanity would advance gradually under Confederation oversight, sharing beneficial technologies while submitting to safeguards that prevented dangerous applications. In return, Earth would gain protection from other galactic threats and access to beneficial knowledge from established civilizations. A probationary membership, Admiral Krixtar mused, with full membership contingent on demonstrated responsibility. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. We understand that trust must be earned, but we're asking for the opportunity to earn it rather than being condemned for potential crimes we haven't committed. The negotiations continued for days, with the Confederation Council participating via quantum communication. Sarah's patience and reasonableness gradually won over even the most skeptical members. Her willingness to accept oversight and restrictions demonstrated exactly the kind of wisdom the Confederation had hoped to see in an ascending species. But not everyone was convinced that diplomacy was the answer. As the talks progressed, a faction within the Confederation began planning more drastic action. Led by General Voxnim of the Purifier Corps, these hardliners believed that any risk to galactic stability was unacceptable, regardless of the architect's apparent blessing. The architects were brilliant, but not infallible, Voxnim argued in secret communications with his supporters. Their disappearance itself proves the danger of unlimited advancement. We cannot allow sentiment to override security. The Purifiers began mobilizing assets throughout the galaxy, preparing for a final solution to the human problem. If diplomacy failed to contain the threat, they would ensure that Earth's accelerated development ended permanently. Sarah sensed the growing tension through her enhanced awareness, but she also sensed something else, an opportunity. The Confederation was fracturing along philosophical lines, forced to confront the contradictions in their own founding principles. The same protective instincts that had created their rigid development protocols were now threatening to destroy the very legacy they claimed to protect. As the formal negotiations reached a critical juncture, Sarah prepared to reveal the full scope of what humanity could offer the galaxy. But she also prepared for the possibility that fear would triumph over wisdom, and that Earth's first contact with galactic civilization might end in conflict rather than cooperation. The next phase of the crisis would test not just humanity's readiness for advancement, but the Confederation's ability to live up to its own highest ideals. Earth's Answer the Confederation Council chamber had never witnessed such heated debate. For 3 days, representatives from 47 species argued over humanity's fate, while Sarah Chun waited patiently in Earth's makeshift diplomatic facility. The vote had been called and postponed 6 times as factions shifted and alliances crumbled under the weight of unprecedented circumstances. General Voxnim stood at the war podium, his scaled form radiating barely contained aggression. Council members, we face a choice between temporary sentiment and permanent security. The human aberration must be contained before it spreads beyond our ability to control. His words carried the authority of someone who had witnessed civilizations rise and fall across millennia. The Purifier Core had been created specifically to handle existential threats to galactic stability, and Voxnim had never failed in that duty. The architect repository changes nothing. He continued, his reptilian eyes scanning the assembled delegates. If anything, it proves how dangerous unchecked advancement can be. The architects themselves vanished after achieving ultimate knowledge. Do we want the same fate for our galaxy? Elder Sindra's energy form-pulsed with counterargument. But General, the repository's selection process suggests the architects learn from their own transcendence. They created safeguards specifically to prevent the mistakes of the past. Safeguards can fail, Voxnim shot back. Security protocols can be bypassed. The only permanent solution is elimination of the threat source. Admiral Krixtar, who had spent days observing Sarah directly, found himself in the unexpected position of advocating for humanity. With respect, General, I've studied this human extensively. Her approach demonstrates exactly the kind of ethical restraint we hope to see in developing species. The debate raged on, but Sarah was no longer listening through the quantum communication link. Her enhanced awareness had detected something far more concerning. Massive energy buildups throughout the galaxy as Purifier Core fleets moved into position. Voxnim wasn't just arguing for elimination, he was preparing for it regardless of the Council's decision. Sarah closed her eyes and reached out through the Architect Repository's consciousness network. Around Earth, her carefully selected human partners felt her touch in their minds. Dr. Elena Vasquez in Geneva, whose fusion research had revolutionized clean energy, Professor David Kim in Seoul, whose quantum computing breakthroughs had solved problems that had puzzled scientists for decades, Dr. Amara Okafor in Lagos, whose medical advances had eliminated 3 major diseases in as many months that 67 enhanced humans around the globe suddenly understood that their species stood at a crossroads. The knowledge they had received, the gentle guidance that had accelerated their research, the subtle expansion of their consciousness, all of it had led to this moment. It's time, Sarah whispered into the quantum field that connected them all. Show them what humanity can become. What happened next would be remembered as either humanity's greatest triumph or its final act of defiance, the Doctor. Vasquez activated her latest fusion reactor design, but instead of generating power for Geneva, she linked it to a global energy grid that shouldn't have existed. Professor Kim's quantum computers, scattered across 6 continents, suddenly networked into a processing matrix that rivaled anything in Confederation space. Dr. Okafor's biomedical research stations began producing healing compounds that could cure ailments across species barriers. Within hours, Earth transformed. Cities that had struggled with energy shortages were powered by clean fusion. Diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia simply vanished as perfect cures became available. Atmospheric processors began reversing centuries of environmental damage. And, most remarkably, humanity's enhanced individuals began broadcasting a message of cooperation and peaceful advancement to the galaxy. The Confederation monitoring stations registered the changes with disbelief. Earth's technological signature had jumped from Class 2 to Class 6 in a single day. But more than the advancement itself, it was the nature of that advancement that stunned observers. Instead of weapons or tools of conquest, humanity had chosen to perfect healing, environmental restoration, and peaceful energy generation. Every new technology was immediately shared freely, not just among humans, but broadcasted to the galaxy at large. The patterns of development showed clear evidence of the architect's guiding wisdom, power balanced with responsibility, advancement tempered with ethics. General Voxnim watched the transformation with growing alarm. This proves my point exactly, he declared to his assembled fleet commanders. They've advanced beyond our ability to contain them conventionally. Initiate planetary sterilization protocols immediately. The Purifier Core fleet moved toward Earth's solar system, their planet-killing weapons charging for the final solution. 12 massive ships, each capable of cracking worlds, prepared to end humanity's brief experiment with accelerated evolution. But Sarah had been expecting this moment. As the Purifier fleet entered the outer solar system, they encountered something impossible. A defense grid that shouldn't have existed, not weapons or shields in any conventional sense, but something far more sophisticated. The space around Earth had been subtly altered, reality itself adjusted to make violent action increasingly difficult. Admiral Krixtar, monitoring the situation from his flagship, watched in amazement as the Purifier weapons simply failed to function properly. Energy weapons lost coherence in the modified spacetime around Earth. Kinetic projectiles found their mass redistributed in ways that rendered them harmless. Even the ship's navigation systems began malfunctioning as the local physics became increasingly nonviolent. "What are they doing?" demanded Counselor Vorth, his crystalline form resonating with confusion. Sarah's voice came through the quantum communication network, calm and patient as always. "We're demonstrating an alternative approach to galactic security. Violence becomes harder, cooperation becomes easier." The architects discovered this principle in their final years. Reality itself can be adjusted to favor peace over conflict. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just gained advanced technology, they had learned to implement the architect's ultimate discovery, the ability to modify the fundamental nature of spacetime to discourage violence while encouraging cooperation and mutual understanding. General Voxnem, finding his fleet effectively neutralized, made one final desperate attempt. "If we cannot destroy them from outside, we'll destroy them from within," he snarled, ordering his best infiltration operatives to Earth's surface. The operatives never made it past Earth's atmosphere, not because they were stopped or captured, but because they chose not to continue. The same reality modifications that had neutralized the fleet's weapons had a profound effect on consciousness within the field. Violent intentions became increasingly difficult to maintain, while peaceful impulses were naturally amplified. The infiltrators found themselves sitting in shuttle bays, suddenly questioning the wisdom of their mission. For the first time in their careers, these professional killers began to wonder if there might be better solutions to galactic problems than elimination and control. Dr. Ythar A., the Confederation's architect expert, studied the phenomenon with instruments that could barely comprehend what they were measuring. "It's not mind control," she reported to the Council. "They're not forcing behavioral changes. They're adjusting the fundamental properties of local spacetime to make violence less energetically favorable while making cooperation more efficient. They've weaponized peace itself," Admiral Krixtar observed with something approaching awe. Sarah appeared once more in the council chamber via holographic projection, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood representatives of her enhanced human network, scientists, philosophers, artists, and leaders from every continent and culture. They looked exactly like ordinary humans, but their eyes held depths of understanding that spoke of genuine wisdom rather than mere intelligence. "Honored members of the Galactic Confederation," Sarah began, "we stand before you not as supplicants requesting membership, but as equals offering partnership. We have proven that we can advance responsibly, that we can wield power without corruption, and that we can offer genuine solutions to problems that have plagued galactic civilization for millennia." She gestured, and the holographic display showed the spreading effects of Earth's reality modifications. "What you've witnessed today is just the beginning. The architect's final gift wasn't just knowledge, it was the wisdom to use that knowledge to make existence itself more peaceful, more cooperative, more conducive to the flourishing of conscious life." General Voxnem, his fleet still helplessly adrift in space that refused to support violent action, made one last argument. "And what happens when this technology spreads? When every species has the power to modify reality according to their own moral systems? Chaos is the only possible result." Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. "An excellent point, General, which is why we're not offering the technology freely. Instead, we're offering something better. A partnership in developing universal ethical frameworks that can guide such power responsibly." The display changed to show not just Earth, but a network of worlds throughout the galaxy where the same peaceful modifications were slowly taking effect. Not imposed by force, but spreading naturally as species chose to adopt humanity's approach to conflict resolution. The architects understood something that we're only beginning to grasp, Sarah continued. True galactic civilization isn't about maintaining balance through force or fear. It's about creating conditions where cooperation becomes the natural choice, where violence becomes literally more difficult than peaceful problem-solving. The council chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. Humanity wasn't threatening the existing galactic order. They were offering to evolve it into something unprecedented, a civilization where peace wasn't maintained through deterrence and control, but through fundamental changes to reality itself that made conflict counterproductive. Elderson DRA was the first to speak. You're proposing a complete transformation of how galactic civilization operates. Yes, Sarah replied simply. The architects began this transformation eons ago when they transcended physical form. We're offering to complete their work with the wisdom they gained through their experience and the fresh perspective that comes from our species' unique developmental path. The vote, when it finally came, was unanimous, not because the council was convinced humanity posed no threat, but because they recognized that the threat humanity actually posed was to the old ways of thinking about power, security, and civilization itself. General Voxnim, his fleet still caught in Earth's peaceful reality bubble, found himself experiencing something he had never expected. Hope. For the first time in his long military career, he began to imagine a galaxy where his services might no longer be necessary, not because threats had been eliminated, but because the nature of existence itself had evolved beyond the need for such measures. As the Confederation officially welcomed humanity as full members with unprecedented authority to implement their reality modification technology, Sarah stood once more in the Chilean desert where it had all begun. The architect repository pulsed gently beside her, its crystalline structure reflecting the stars of a galaxy that was about to change forever. "Thank you," she whispered to the ancient intelligence that had chosen her species for this responsibility. "We won't disappoint you." In response, the repository showed her visions of the future. Worlds where war had become literally impossible, species learning to resolve differences through cooperation rather than conquest, and consciousness itself evolving toward greater wisdom and compassion. The architect's final gift wasn't just advanced technology, it was the promise of a universe where intelligence and ethics could flourish together, that Earth's message to the galaxy had been received, understood, and accepted. Humanity's answer to the challenge of power was not domination, but transformation. And in the end, that made all the difference. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe approved of the direction its conscious inhabitants had chosen to take at the end.